Um, oh, and I made that mistake again. Good. There we go. How do I make this less whitewash my face? I guess that's good enough. Okay. Um, yeah. Welcome everyone. Um, we are back at it again with the stream. So what I'm going to do today is I'm sort of still continuing on my exploration of cloud variables and how we have computers communicate with um, the cloud, or computers that are computers on the internet, or anyone that isn't like exactly the process that we're working with. They're kind of all um, similar ways of thinking of this. So what I'm going to do is just go through. I'm basically just going to go through our Firebase integration um, to have an idea of how we do this in Woof, and sort of seeing, are we able to have better response times in Woof than we do in Scratch? So I think I'm going to do what we suggest doing first, of just having a high score in a simple game, to figure out how we can actually do this, and then I'm going to possibly see if I can start making a multiplayer game in Woof and see if it is able to not have as big latency issues, and like jerkiness on when you're observing someone else move things, um, or if you need to, be writing your own programming language to get rid of those issues, is what may end up happening. But for now, we're just exploring this. So yeah, hopefully you saw, but I'm just going to do integrations Firebase. And so it says, we suggest that you read through documentation. We're not going to do that. We know what we're doing. It'll be fine. So the first thing is write your own game and test it to make sure it works well without high score. So I'm just going to do something basic for this. No, I closed that and then immediately regretted it. So I'm just going to do actually, I'm just going to do literally the game that we have people do at the beginning of Starcatcher. I probably could do this without looking at the documentation for now. So we're going to say, when we start the game, we set our backdrop, we make a new circle, and we give it names. We say var circle equals new circle, and then we give it some properties. We say color is a random color. We say x is a random x. We say y is a random y. We wait for it to update. Okay, yeah, that is appearing. Just the first time it happened, I wasn't able to find it. And then we can also say the radius is a random number between 10 and 75, something like that. Yeah. And then, so we want to say every time it's clicked, we want to do a thing. So when we say circle dot on mouse down, so that's every time it's clicked, we want to do things, and we want to actually do all of these things. But the syntax is quite different. So we say circle dot color is going to be equal to a random color, and we need to get rid of these commas. We say circle dot x is equal to a random x. We say circle dot y is equal to that, and then circle dot radius is equal to that. Oh, I didn't put an equal sign here. So there's that, and now when we click it, it moves around and does its thing. So then we want to have a variable for score and a variable for timing. So we're going to say, we'll do this up at the top. We say var score equals 0, and we say var timer or var time equals 20. So each time we click this, we want to score plus plus. We want to add 1 to score. We want to say every 1 second. We want to time minus minus. And then we want to show both of these things. So we're going to do new text, where the text is the result of doing this stuff. This is score is plus this plus score. And then we're going to do a similar thing for time. And now we need to move these around. I'm going to say, I'm going to make it a little bigger. I'm going to make these both 24. I'm going to say the y position is max y minus, so it's 24 pixels tall, so I want it to be like 16 pixels below the top. And let's make these white quotes, so that is slightly more visible. Then I'm just going to copy this stuff down to the time. Oh boy, that okay. And I'm just going to move it further down, so it's 16 plus 24 is 40, so that should be just like directly. Why is that math wrong? I mean, this looks fine, so I'm just going to leave it like this. Yeah, so we're happy with this, and then we're also going to say every time it goes down, we're going to ask if time equals 0, and if it does, we tell the game to freeze. So now we're going to click this, and this is successfully Starcatcher, where I am playing it, and then once the time gets down to 0, it no longer is doing anything. So what we want to do is, when time gets to 0, we probably want to, here is where we want to check, like, hey, did you beat the high score? If so, update the high score. But that is what we're going to be dealing with in a second. So that is Starcatcher, and now we're going to start trying to integrate it. So we have done this. It works well without the high score. It says wrap all your game in a function called run game. Below that, make it have it work. So we are going to write a new function. We say function run game takes no arguments, and then does all of this stuff. And then after all of that, we're going to say this closes run game. And then this doesn't do anything because we haven't called it yet. Then we say run game and do it, and now it's back to the way it was. So if that didn't, oh, interesting. Yes, so if that didn't make sense to you, what I did was I made all of my stuff into a function. So I just pressed Control B to format stuff, or that cleans code. I didn't save this yet. I should do that. This is Pelle 513 stream. Yeah. So what the? Oh, oops. I probably should mute that for the future. 1 second. That. Okay. Good. Yeah, so what this did was take all the code that I had written before, that was like from line 2 to line 41. So that was what the game looked like before, and we just put that to say this is inside a function. So it won't run by default, but when we run this function, it does all of the game runny things that it did before. So we have finished this. We have our function that does that. So now we're going to say replace the call to run game with the following code. Excuse me. Here. So we're going to copy all of this code, which I'm having difficulty doing because my mouse is still being stupid. So replace the call to run game with that stuff. So we have done that, and this still works as before. So what this says is this loads the Firebase libraries before running your game. Sure, that is fine. Create an account on Google Firebase and open a new project. So I already have done that, and I have created a new project. So that is here. Let me, yeah, so you guys can all see this. This is fine. And so we have this new project started up. And so we created an account and opened a new project. Now we want to change the rules on the database by clicking on database, then rules, then learn more in the console. So we say is this project overview? Okay, great. We're starting to get to the learning part of this. Yeah, so we're in this project. I want to look at the database. We're here. Oh, go to develop and then click database. Cool. And account, open a new project, change rules by clicking on database, then rules. Feels like we probably need to create a database, so I'm going to do that. We're starting in production mode, sure. Yeah, US Central seems fine. Cool. We so we're gonna look through this. Let's see. Yeah, so we're gonna looking for like add Firebase to your web app is what we're gonna be doing next. Let's check in on this. Okay, so it's doing things. Cool. And then here we want to do rules. It said rules, learn more, and choose public from the example rule set. Rules, edit rules. This. Huh. So what is it saying here? And rules, then learn more in the console. I don't think it's there. These all seem reasonable. Oh, if I can do that. I want to do this. Oh, I think we do. Okay. It's possible that right, so this is saying read write false. I think I'm just gonna say true here. Publish that and assume that that's working. So I assume what this is saying is, what are the conditions for allowing reading and writing? And so if true is just saying everyone in the world is allowed to read and write to this, which is fine for this. For now, it might be better to change it to be more secure in the future, but for now we're just trying to make sure that it is up and running. Yeah, so it looks like this, where this is saying public, where this stuff that we're reading in here is kind of saying you can do stuff, and it looks like it just changed the format which this worked from when this tutorial was created to now. But I think just changing it to true was what we wanted to do, is that makes it public, and that makes our code able to write to the database, not have to go through like an authentication step, which we don't really want to do. So then we want to go back to the Firebase console. So we want to go to project overview, add Firebase to your code for web. Let's see. Add Firebase to your web app. Yeah, okay, so I'm just going to follow along with this. I don't think Woof has anything here. So this is star capture 513 string. Nah. We don't want to do that. And then there's all this stuff that we want to do. There's all the stuff that we need to add to Woof to let it know how to communicate to Firebase. So it says highlight the config code between the second set of script tags, starting with initialize Firebase, and copy and paste it into our thing. They changed the order on this since this was written, but I'm pretty sure it's this stuff where we want a Firebase config thing and then initializing it. So we copy all of this stuff from over here, and then we're going to paste this over here. Yikes. Oh, okay. That's very possible in that this thing might now have a capital F Firebase. So I'm just going to try that. Or so I'm going to click on that, let that happen. Curses. Okay, so I suspect what might be happening is this thing up here is probably supposed to be the same as this here, but it in fact is not, because because I think this is loading the library, and then this down here is using the library. So I'm just going to close that for a second. So what I'm trying to get at is saying this is trying to load Firebase version 3.4 and all the API associated with that. But in here, this stuff that we copied from over here is using Firebase 7.14. That is quite the difference. So what I'm going to do is copy this stuff and move that to here. Oops. And then this needs to go back to being lowercase. And darn, I thought that would work. Okay, what else does it ask us to do here? This doesn't do anything. Okay. This feels like it should all be fine. Great. I capitalize it, does it start working? No, I don't think so. What I'm actually going to do is copy this and see where it takes me. What I'm hoping is that it lets me see a JavaScript file. Alas. It does not let me do that. Let's see. We're going to see if we just straight up Google this. This is just goes back to that stuff. Only required. We don't have any analytics. We're initializing app. Wait. App. Huh. So, I guess I'm going to do a bit more Googling to try to figure out basically what I want to do. Okay, yeah, so we have all of this stuff, and that's a separate thing. We want to do some of these things just straight up in JavaScript. Yeah, so this stuff all makes sense, but where is it, like, Firebase isn't existing yet. I'm trying to figure out where this is coming from. Alright, so that's fancy stuff. That's other fancy stuff. No, we don't want to add it to a game. Might want to add it to a server. No, this probably feels more in depth than we would like it to be. Yeah. Um, okay, let's go back and see if someone, let's look more at Stack Overflow as opposed to the built-in things. So, actually, I guess we should actually look for an error that's more descriptive for what we're doing, because in our code, the import code URL of this stuff is not properly giving us a Firebase. And so I guess we can just search that, and then so this, and then Firebase not defined, and see if that gives us anything. So that's where we were before. Let's see if there's a Stack Overflow thing that does this. Oh, this is Python, so that's not quite what we want. Let's add a JavaScript to our search. Maybe this will be more helpful. I think this is very similar to what we had before. We're registering it with Firebase, sure. Is this exactly what we had before? Yeah, I think so. Initialize Firebase in your app. Maybe it just happens in a different way now. That would be unfortunate. Um, yeah, because that's all. This is all. Ooh, this might be what I want. So this is. Um, okay. So we got this. This takes us back to where we were before. Yeah, it does. Okay. But does it let us see some of the code in here? Is kind of what I want to say. What I suspect is happening is that in here, um, Firebase app has just been renamed to to something, and I'm trying to figure out what it's called. Fire. Okay, so that's no good. I'm just seeing if the autocomplete lets us do anything here, and I don't think so. Yeah, this Firebase and app are the only things that make sense to check to see if it's starting with. Um, let's see. This is like hosting your own server that has a Firebase, and like we don't really want to have to do that. Is this all? I feel like these all don't let us see the source code. Um, is my suspicion of this. Yeah, no, this doesn't seem like what we want to be looking for. Maybe this. I'm getting less and less optimistic. Oh God, what even is in here? What's happening to this website? Why is it taking so long to load? Why is there so much text on this one single line? Okay, I don't think we want to be here. Oh, excuse me. Oh. Wait, no, that's where unpackage is just like take a whole lot of stuff and throw it somewhere. Okay, I don't think this is going to be useful. Let's take out this part of the search. See if this gives us anything funky. Ooh, that this feels slightly more useful, I think. Okay, yeah. So this person doesn't have. Okay. Um, maybe. Eh. Um, um, okay, I want to see. Is there anything here that I did wrong? I don't think so. Um, oh. Maybe I did do something wrong. Um, I think this stuff here is supposed to be inside the run game. Does that stop yelling at me? It does. Hooray. I have been very silly. Oh, maybe not. but I think that makes a lot of sense to me, and it's just me being silly because um, what this thing here is doing is saying get the code from this URL, and then uh, use after that call the function run game. And so we want to, and so this makes sense because it makes sense that Firebase wasn't defined as a thing before that, and now is. So at least now it's not giving me an error saying that it doesn't know what Firebase is, because now it does. However, it appears that it's not actually doing anything. If we put this above here, um, will we get a backdrop? No, I think it's taking a while to chug along and initialize this app. Let's okay, then we go to the console. Um, app, um, see what can we do with this? Not all that much. Sure. Um, Anything interesting happening here? No, not really. Um, um, Anything happening with this? Um, yeah, so for this, we might just be waiting for a while for this to initialize. Um, but I really don't think that it should be taking more than fractions of a second. Um, what? Um, sure. So we save this and reload it. And yeah, what's happening? So like this all is just saying um, how Firebase knows that this thing should be using stuff. Copy and paste it into your project. Create score and high score variables. Um, Score value to the shared high score location in the database using this line of code. Okay, so this initialization section of your game, set the high score. Okay. So I'm just going to follow this stuff somewhat blindly. I think this stuff goes back to making sense for me. Because here it's basically saying at the end of the game, we want to check to see if we set a new high score, and if so, we um, write it to the database. So when we're starting, we want to also say var high score. I think I'm going to do step 9 before step 8 because it makes more sense to me. Where we're going to say firebase.database.ref shared high score dot on value function snapshot, right? Snapshot, and then we open a curly bracket and do high score equals snapshot dot val. So thinking through this stuff, we're probably saying what we're saying is go to Firebase, go to the database, look at the variable called shared high score inside the database, and look at the value, um, and then take a snapshot of the database in the current state when we're observing it, and then set the high score equal to the value of the snapshot, or the value that's contained inside the snapshot. And then we want to copy this when we are done. So this is when the time is up. We want to say if our score is greater than high score, first thing we want to do is we can do new text, where we're going to say text is you beat the high score, exclamation point. And I guess we're just going to make that for now not score size. It's going to be like 30 because it's going to be big in the middle of the screen. And since in the middle of the screen, I don't need to change the x and y coordinates. Then after that, we're going to do this thing that we're actually trying to do, which is firebase.database .ref of shared high score .set. What's the rest of this? And then just set it equal to score. Cool. So we have that. And all this stuff. So this should all be working, with the exception that it doesn't do anything at all. So I can at least close this so I have more room to look at things. And that's what I'm going to do is do inspect, which lets me see if there's anything funky going on in here. And it's getting a bunch of complainy things in here. Okay, and this is all the errors that have happened since the beginning. We had Firebase is not defined. The server is responding with the status of 404, which is not great. This is happening every time we do this. Yes, this is saying the, I'm pretty sure what that's saying is that it can't find this URL. So maybe what we should do is go back and stop messing with things that are working. So I'm going to copy this whole line and replace that line back with it. Okay, yes, this is back to working. So I think we want to stay on this version 3.4 because then it will work. So I'm going to close the inspection and do this stuff where it didn't say I set a new high score, and I think that's probably because high score doesn't exist yet. But what I'm going to do is just make it so we're displaying the value of high score. So I'm going to start off by saying the value of high score is 0, and then in here, this should overwrite that value of high score, but I want to make sure that I want to give us a high score value for that. I guess also what that means is I want high score to be above where our score thing is. So I'm just going to move these down. So this is going to be minus 40. This is minus 64. And then actually, all the text stuff should be in the same spot, because it'll make me feel a little bit better. New text of text is high score is high score, and then just copy all of this stuff. Oh, and then, right, this wants to be minus 16, right? Yeah. Here, yeah, if score is greater than high score, Um, so hopefully when this times out, um, it's going to say that we got a new high score. Um, yeah, so we beat the high score. If I reload this, high score is not changed. Let's see. Let's look in the database. Usage. I'm just basically seeing if there's no reads or writes that we saw, so that seems bad. No, I think it's definitely supposed to be in there. Um, um, yeah, so it just seems like we're not properly doing the things. I'm going to go back to opening up this to see if there's an issue here. This definitely seems promising. Firebase warning. Okay, permission denied for setting high score. That sounds like we didn't follow one of the steps, and I suspect it's one of the steps in here. Let's see. Rule version 2. Read write if true. Is there rules playground? So if we, I don't really know what this is doing, but I'm just gonna say run. Oh, if I just say shared high score, that must be document level. Interesting. Is there anything in? Okay, so I don't think the console is going to give us that much more. We just said set at shared. Or maybe let's create slash shared by score. That doesn't seem reasonable. What happens if we build document? We're going to say we make shared high score a number equal to 0. Wait. So what's happening in here? The name is databases default documents shared high score. What happens if I do all of this? Databases slash default slash documents slash. What does this look like in here? This looks silly inside, but maybe it's okay. If we run this, simulated write aloud. No detailed information. Okay. Create update. We run this. Okay, yeah. So I think that's likely what's happening. That it seems like we haven't actually created the variable yet. So if we go to the database, go to data, we start a collection. Users would contain each document for each user. Give the collection ID. think we're just going to say shared high score a bunch of times for this. Shared high score. Actually, maybe I should be doing this in Woof as opposed to in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close the inspection thing. Yeah, I think it feels like what's happening is that we didn't actually create the shared high score variable on Firebase, which I don't think this tutorial told us to do, but I may have just missed it. Read and write freely to the database, add the thing, generate config code, copy and paste it to your project, create a score and high score variables inside of forever loop. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do is this set code is I'm just going to assume that the way that we do the set code is the same as the way we do the create code. So we're going to do dot create, and we're going to say create the 0 thing in here. Okay, this is not a function. That is probably what I deserve. Yeah, so we're gonna go back to here and create it in here and see if we can figure out how to do stuff here. Actually, I'm just gonna do the collection ID is gonna be scores, and the document ID. Collection must contain at least one document collected unit of storage. Use an auto-generated ID or custom ID if needed. Document score your idea. So let's just do an auto ID, and then the field is going to be shared high score. It's going to be a number, and it's going to have a value of 0 for now. So we're going to save this. And now this stuff is in here. So when I am pulling the data into Woof, I probably need all of this stuff. The first thing we're going to do is rerun this, get a couple points, and see if it does anything. So we're going to open up the console over here. Right, so we had a bunch of issues there. First argument contains undefined, but it has a bunch of undefined stuff because I was doing it in stupid spots. But okay, so we got another permission denied, presumably because it doesn't exist. Or rather, we don't know, we're not finding it in the proper way. So what I'm going to do is the always very glamorous and not hated at all instructions for working with the Firebase. I am going to read the documentation. Yeah, so we get the database. Kind of what is making sense to me here is when we're reading and writing data, what we're trying to do is like do stuff here. So we already see this because we have like firebase.database in here. And then we're going to be doing stuff to that object that it returns a bunch. So basic write operations. You can use set to save data to a specified reference, placing any data at that path. Might add a user. Set overwrites data at a specified location, including any child nodes. That is all fine because we're overwriting the high score. Um, so um, dot ref. So our dot ref is on value. I think instead of value, we need to do whatever I called this. So I called this scores. So I'm going to call this scores. Um, and now it's even more concerned because like nothing's showing up here, so that means that this caused an error. Um, let's soldier on. Or read data once. So this is actually what we're trying to do here. Oh no, okay, that thing does actually want to stay on value. Oops. Snapshot of your data without looking for changes. Is it once? Um, hmm. Okay, I'm just skipping around, and that's not really what I should be doing. To read data at a path and listen for changes, use on or once methods. Firebase.database.reference. Are we doing that? I think, sure. Um, ref of shared hide score. I'm gonna look in here for ref. Yeah, because users plus user ID. Okay, this covers the basics of retrieving data by attaching an asynchronous listener to firebase.database.reference. Um, yeah. We have authentication should be okay, I believe. Oh, get a database reference. Is this a reference? Um, reference to a database service. Okay, yeah, because so this is the firebase.database.R reference comes out of this. I don't particularly like that then after that you call ref on it, but alas. So um, we're trying to make sure that this thing lines up. So I think I just want to um, can I copy this easily? No, not really. Oh dear, I'm gonna have to type all of that. Oh no, there we go. And copy that. So I think what I want to do is the ref instead of that is going to be scores slash this thing. I need to make this all on the same line. Slash shared high score. And if we look here, I think it looks like that. And it's not supposed to start with a slash here. So maybe this will do it, is the hope. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to update this to 5. So say that the high score is supposed to be 5 right now. And so that means that when I reload this, if the high score is actually 5, that means it's truly reading from there. And it's not. Okay, good. We figured it out. We definitely don't have it working. I'm going to open up the console again. Wait, I thought I put this back onto value. Okay. So if we reload this, okay, yeah, so we don't get anything new happening here. That's what I'm going to do is just type in, or no, I'm going to type in firebase.database and just see what this gives us. Then we can look in here to see a bunch of stuff. There's a whole bunch of things happening there. So if we do that, .ref, all of this stuff. Oops. Let's see. Oops, I need a quote here. Let's see what this lets us see. Ooh, this doesn't give us an error. That's better than I thought it would be. There's a lot of things that are undefined in here, though. But, okay, right. This is saying, there's a whole bunch of things happening in here. None of them make all that much sense. But so at least this gives us something that appears valid-ish. So I'm just gonna take the rest of this stuff. Actually, let's do it all on a single line, which will be ugly, but oh well. So then we can do that. And snapshot is going to do log snapshot. Yeah, so I'm just going to run that and see what happens. Ooh, snapshot has some things in it. That's pretty cool. I don't know what any of these things mean, but it's pretty cool. Ooh, this feels like a get and a set. Okay, so we're gonna go back to this. Instead of console logging snapshot, we do console log snapshot.val. That doesn't do anything? Well, it gives us a null. So it doesn't know what the value is. And that makes a bunch of sense. Because this isn't doing anything. Okay. I've been bashing my head. Oh, okay, yeah. For a second, I thought I'd solved it, but no. This is just the high score is like the high score is a local variable, and we want to update it with the database as we're loading into the game, and we're not. So then whenever we get points, it thinks that we beat the high score. Okay. Or I guess let's copy the reference thing here. Take this and put it there. And then get a couple points and see if it still complains that it doesn't have permission. So I'm going to get 7 because that's higher than the thing, and just ensure that this doesn't allow us to, it still doesn't think we have permission to do it, which presumably means that that doesn't exist. Wait, did we get, yeah, we got another one. So that means that I truly have made no progress this time. That's not actually true. I've made a little bit of progress, especially while looking inside here. I definitely feel like we need to, this stuff that we did of starting collections and stuff like that feels necessary for making scores exist, but for now, I'm just gonna call that a stream and be done with it. Yeah, if anyone watching has any idea on how to get stuff like this to work, I would be happy to hear it. I'll probably do a little bit of poking around on this on my own time and possibly come back to next stream with an um, actual ideas for how to do this. I might also update that documentation if I figure it out, because I think it feels like there's a couple steps missing, or maybe I just don't know what I'm doing. Or I mean, I clearly don't know what I'm doing, but maybe we can figure out some stuff with that, make it a little more feasible for other people to start going. Anyway, that's it for me for today. Um, Trek is going to be continuing his visual novel in Scratch on Saturday at 5 p.m. If you are interested in watching that, feel free to stop by, give the channel a follow if you want to get notified when we go live. And I think that's it. Thanks, guys. See you next time.